Okay, hello. Welcome to English 1301. This is Composition 1. I'm your instructor. I will be taking you through this online course for the next 15 weeks. Here's what we need to know about the class. Today we're going to go over the syllabus. We're going to go over we're going to go over the Ecampus site, and we're going to do a little start into getting into our textbook and some of the concepts that you're going to be learning over the course of the next semester. So, follow along with the syllabus if you can. I'm going to do my best here. I'm still trying to get used to broadcasting like this. So, as you see, sometimes I have errors that happen like that. Alright, so follow along with the syllabus as we go along with it. A lot of it is going to be mostly bureaucratic stuff, but there's a few things that you do need to know about, mainly involving the textbooks, involving the online access, and involving what we're going to be doing over the course of the semester. So, the highlights of this is that everyone needs to set up a Mindtap account, okay? Because this semester we're going with the Included program, most of you are going to be able to access it without even needing an access code. All you'll need to do is go into Ecampus, and you'll have to click on the link in Ecampus that goes to Mindtap, and it should take you directly to the course. Okay? All you need to do is just register your name for it, and that should take care of it. Now, Mindtap is kind of a self-paced thing where you're going to be mainly doing stuff involving structures and forms and grammar and spelling. Okay, that's the primary purpose of it. There is a little bit of it that ties into the textbook. In fact, most of it actually ties into the textbook. But many of the activities that you're doing in it are primarily going to be grammatical in nature or just practice exercises. Okay. However, you do need to complete all the material in Mindtap by December 4th. Okay, I know it says December 3rd here. It's because I'm used to working with classes where the class weekend's on Thursday. So we're going to go to December 4th. Okay. Now, the required text for this class is titled The Essentials of Writing 10 Core Concepts, 2nd edition by Robert Jagielski. The thing is that these ISBNs lately have not been coming up good, so it might be better for you to search for the textbook by the title rather than by looking for it by the ISBN. Now, notice there's two ISBNs here. There's a print version of it, which has one ISBN. There's also a digital e-text version, which has a different ISBN. There's also a third access option you have, and that is when you have your Mindtap access set up, Mindtap includes an ebook copy of this textbook. Okay. If you decide you need to have something outside of Mindtap, then both of them are available. Both versions are available through the Fall at Campus bookstore or through the online bookstore. It says the fall editions can include the codes. Again, because the included program, it's my understanding that you may not need those codes anymore. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The optional text I list here is a book titled The Tao of Writing, Imagine, Create, Flow. The author is Ralph Wallstrom, who is a professor who taught me when I was in undergrad. Ralph is actually a really capable writer, and this book comes from, he spent some time traveling in China, and he used some principles of the Tao Te Ching and applied it to writing. One of the reasons why I recommend this text is because it's one of the best resources that you have for preventing writer's block. Okay, let's be honest here. The writer's block is one of the most frustrating things that you could have happen to you, and this textbook really helps you avoid it, or if you do run into it, it helps you break through it. Okay. Now, as far as materials for recommended for the class, I do recommend getting a spiral-bound college rule notebook to use as a writing journal. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I also recommend a USB thumb drive because the amount of writing you're going to be doing is going to take up some space. Okay, I do show a 2 gig minimum on these slides. Keep in mind these slides have been evolving for a few years now, and it's my when I've looked on the shelves lately, the smallest thumb drive I've been able to find is 4 gig. Okay, so whatever, you don't need to go too massive in terms of your thumb drive, but you want to have something. Now, as this class is being delivered online, you must have internet access. Okay, obviously you have some if you're seeing me right now. So, Ecampus is going to be our primary means of communication during the semester. I'm going to take you around Ecampus here in a minute to show you what you have to offer there. Okay, these lectures are going to be delivered online. You've already discovered that. If you're watching this right now, you've probably followed the Ecampus link. Okay. The other thing we're going to do is set up once weekly Blackboard Communicate sessions, and we're going to do this basically by sections. Okay. Or not by sections, it's going to be by course numbers. Okay. Because initially when I started setting up the classes, they had the eCampus sites were all separate for each section, and they've started consolidating them for me so that English 1301 everybody goes to one site, English 1302 everybody goes to one site. All right, so so as a result, what we're going to wind up doing is holding one session for 1301 and one session for 1302 every week. These sessions will last about an hour, and it'll be kind of like doing a Zoom conference. If you've been doing that during the pandemic, you'll be used to this. Okay? At the very least, though, I would ask that you attend the first of these sessions because within the first 12 days, I have to certify attendance in the class. You have to have attended at least once for me to certify. So I would kindly ask, when I announce the first Blackboard Collaborate session for the semester, I would ask that everybody attend it. Okay, and we'll actually make it a little longer to make sure that everybody can get there. Alright, so as far as what's on the syllabus and what you can expect for the class, there are 5 writing assignments that you will be doing. One of them is an analysis essay. And I will tell you in advance, the context of this is going to be in the context of writing to obtain a scholarship. We're going to have you guys looking for a scholarship program that requires an essay as part of the selection process, and you guys are going to write an analysis essay to meet that requirement. There is a visual literacy assessment that's called for this class. In my classes, for this assignment, you're going to create a blog as a team. One thing I'm going to let you know about is that next week I'm going to have you guys forming teams, and you guys are going to have to try to communicate with each other, contact each other through the web, through Ecampus, contact each other outside of Ecampus if you know each other off of social media, if you can get connected one way or another. It's going to be very important because that assignment relies on teamwork. Okay? Then we have an analysis synthesis essay, which is going to be kind of similar to that first one in that you're going to be analyzing something, but at the same time you're going to be performing what's called synthesis, which is taking elements from a bunch of other sources and consolidating them into a single source. That's going to be your source that you're going to be creating. The fourth one here is the discussion board on Ecampus. Now, every week I'm going to post a discussion topic for you. You guys are going to have to respond to that topic with a well thought out response that goes at least 3 paragraphs. This is primarily to get you guys practicing writing. The big thing about writing is that it's just like anything else. It takes practice. In order to get better at it, it takes practice. So I want you guys to be practicing with those discussion boards. The last one is the final exam. That's going to be a timed writing assignment. I'm going to do this much like I did my final exams last semester, when we had to do everything, when we had to suddenly shift everything to remote. When we do the final exam, you guys are going to take it on Ecampus. You guys are going to have to obtain a exam proctor who's going to monitor you while you take the exam. They're going to actually time you so that you don't violate the spirit or the intent of the assignment. All right. As far as late work goes, if you're running late with an assignment, it's going to be accepted 1 week late for full grade. Okay, if you can get it to me within a week of the due date, I'm okay with that. If it comes in later, this is the wrong percentage I have here. It's not going to be 2% for each week late. It's going to be 4% because each week would represent 2 class sessions if we were meeting face to face. So 2% per session winds up being 4% for each week. Plagiarism will be penalized with 0% on the assignment. I will warn you guys. I don't have you guys put anything through systems like Turnitin, although a lot of professors do. I don't do it because I can do my own plagiarism checking and I'm very good at it. So please do not try it. Attendance. Attendance is important as is participation. Well, attendance is going to be kind of a hard thing to do with an online class. So what we're going to wind up doing here is I'm going to be checking the statistics on who clicks through these links on Ecampus. I have statistics tracking set for all of my lecture slides. I will have statistics tracking set for the YouTube links. And I will be keeping track of who's participating in the discussion boards. Okay, so it was up to you to try to keep up with the class, and you're going to have to kind of police yourselves. Okay, I know that's kind of hard to do with an online class, and believe me, I'm trying to deal with homeschooling my kid at the same time. So I know how hard it is, but you're going to have to try to find a little bit of discipline in there, and you're going to have to take initiative and make sure that you're doing your classwork regularly. Okay? Be courteous, polite, and open-minded to other viewpoints in discussions. Now, those discussion boards are intended to be a conversation starter. Okay? I have very rarely had anybody have an actual discussion in those discussion boards beyond just responding to them. But if you feel like it, you can respond to other people's responses to your response. Or you can respond to other people. Likewise, I want it to be a flowing discussion. That being said, I also want to make sure that we're aware everybody's going to come from different backgrounds, everybody's going to have different viewpoints, and we're all going to need to work together. So as a result, I want you to treat the discussion boards like a safe space. Everyone is free to express themselves without any kind of repercussion, within limits, of course. I'm going to say hate speech is going to be an absolute no, but within reason, people are going to be allowed to express their opinions. Alright, lectures are going to be delivered just like this. It's going to be on YouTube every week. One video lecture is going to cover a week's worth of material. My slides are typically designed to go for 2 class sessions each, which is typically what we have in a face-to-face every week. Again, I'll be tracking views on the videos, and they're going to be linked alongside the class slides on Ecampus. So, it's going to be important that when a new video posts, you need to go view it. Okay? I had some issues with this at the end of the semester last spring because people weren't quite used to it, and I was posting the YouTube videos, and I had people watching the videos. They were maybe watching on average about 15 minutes of each one. Each one lasted a little over an hour. Okay? So obviously they're looking at the slides, but they're not really getting the lecture, and the lecture is going to give you the perspective. Okay, so you want to make sure you are following along with the lecture if you're going to just get the slides. Okay. Now, one thing I will note, you may use YouTube subscription notification features to be alerted to the new sessions by subscribing to the channel. So the channel I'm posting these to is my personal channel. All right. I would ask that you try to keep this mostly private. Okay. A lot of the videos that are on there that are public are past class videos from last semester. The only other videos I put on there are home movies, and I would really rather not have those get widely publicized. Okay, even though they're unlisted, I know there's some people who can hack into channels and find those unlisted videos and play them. I don't want that happening. Okay. One other thing, lecture sessions are going to be collected in a playlist in case you need to review past lectures. Once we get to the third or fourth week, I'm going to start including the link to the playlist in the end cards of the videos. I'm also going to link the playlist to Ecampus in the same place that I put the slides and the rest of the lectures. Now, with that in mind, I want to take a look at Ecampus. This is what you're going to be looking at when you get onto your Ecampus site for my class. Okay, it defaults to go straight to the announcements. Okay, this is the announcement that you guys should have received in your inboxes last week. I sent this out Thursday. Okay. When I send out announcements, they're going to be emailed to you in addition to showing up on Ecampus, so I make sure that everybody sees them. Okay, so here's the information that you need. The important stuff, first off, is the syllabus is right here. Okay, when you click that tab, it's going to take you to this page where you can download the syllabus. Okay, just like that. There's the announcements. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is coursework. Okay, this is where all of the stuff that you have to do for the class and all of the information you need for the class are going to be there. Okay, so notice the very first link here: class PowerPoints and YouTube lectures. Okay, now currently the only thing you're going to be able to see is the week one slides and the link to go to this lecture. Okay. The rest of these are going to be hidden until the Sunday before the Sunday before the week that they represent. Okay, so week 1 unlocked on the 23rd of August. Week 2 is going to unlock on the 30th of August, and so on and so forth. Okay. Class discussion boards. When you come to the class discussion boards, this is what's going to greet you. We have 3 different forums here. Okay, the most important of these, actually equally important, is going to be the weekly discussion topics and the team discussion threads. Now, the weekly discussion topics is the one that you're getting graded on. When you click on this, it'll take you to the weekly discussion topics. To give you an idea, this is the week 1 topic that's currently posted. And if you take a look at this topic, you read through it, and all of my topics are going to be based on current events, unless I'm feeling frisky and doing something special. For instance, my Halloween ones tend to be horror related. Last year's Halloween post involved genre of YouTube videos where people were creating fictional emergency broadcast system messages for huge disasters that were unavoidable. The year before, the Halloween one involved reading creepypastas. Okay, but other than the special Halloween one, we're going to be working mainly with current events. Okay, and if you want, we can, when we get into the Blackboard Collaborate sessions, we can talk over your feelings about the topic for the week or any concerns you have about that topic or who's getting affected by it. Okay? So going back to the main discussion board, the other two threads forums here have nothing in them yet, but I want to talk about them. One is the team discussion threads. When we form up your teams, you're going to find a thread for your team using your chosen team names. Okay? Once we decide your teams and get your team names set up, I'm going to create discussion threads for each team. And I will do my best to try to get the team names and list them on the threads. We've had some issues with this before where people forgot what team they were on. So I'm going to list the team members in the team thread. Okay? Then we have questions to the professor. This is something that you can use to contact me if a question occurs to you outside of Blackboard Collaborate. And I should note this should also only be used if it's something you're comfortable with making public, because these discussion boards are public. I'm not going to get private messages on them. Okay? If you have a concern that you do not feel comfortable making public, then you should continue to just email me it. Okay. The next link on Ecampus is going to be Mindtap. Okay. And if you go to this first link here, English 1301, that is going to go to the Mindtap course. And you will see here. It's going to load content, and it should come up with the course itself. This is what Mindtap will look like. Okay. We have a number of resources in here. Each one of these sections is corresponding to units in the class. It includes activities from the chapters that are covered in each unit. Okay. Also, I want to make note over here, this little blue binder here, that is access to the full textbook. Okay. When you click on that, it'll take you to the ebook for 10 core concepts. As we can wait here and you'll see it load. If it loads. I do apologize. I am on slow internet here. Alright, so this is 10 core concepts, and then you can just use the arrows to page through it. Okay? Alright, so also under coursework will be the links for the individual major assignments. This is Unit 1 is going to be the assignment is going to be the analysis essay. Unit 2 will be the blog. Unit 3 will be the analysis synthesis. And then it's currently hidden for you, but there will be a final exam link. Okay, when it gets to final exam time, we get to December, that's going to start showing up. I want to give you a heads up here. The way I conduct my final exams, I will select a topic and create a reading packet for that topic. Your job is going to be to print that packet out because you are allowed to use it in the final exam period. You're going to be using that as a study guide. It will have possible questions at the end of the packet. I include those so that you can practice, because I will choose the questions on the exam from those questions that are at the end of the packet. Okay? And I do want to warn you that if you are sensitive about topics or anything, you may get slightly emotional, disturbed, whatever you want to call it, about the exam topics. That is actually intentional, because I feel that if you feel strongly about a subject, you're actually going to write better about it. I will say some of the topics that I've covered in the past have included things such as diversity and inclusion in film. I've also done, I did a topic one time about separation therapy, or attachment therapy rather, which is considered by a lot of people to be institutionalized child abuse. That was actually an interesting semester, because one of the students who took that exam was somebody who had actually been through attachment therapy and had intimate knowledge of it. So he wrote an excellent piece for his final exam, mainly because he had firsthand knowledge. But then I might get silly sometimes. I know at least one packet I've done in the past was differences between film adaptations and original works. Another one that I've done twice, and the second one was just this last semester, was getting people to present their interpretations of the YouTube series "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared." All right, so it's going to be a variance here. There's going to be a lot of stuff there. You're going to feel strongly about it. I want you to feel strongly about it because then you're going to write better about it. You're going to be more impassioned about it. You're going to be more into it. Okay? So now going down here, the next one is the Blackboard Collaborate. Okay? That is going to be the messaging or the teleconference system they're going to use once a week. Okay? I will set up a weekly session for Blackboard Collaborate that we can get on and we can talk, you can converse, you can give me your concerns, we can talk over the discussion topic of the week, we can go through the slides, whatever you want to do. Okay? We have emailing an instructor here. Okay? We have a couple here, some useful resources here for research help, help for Ecampus, writing and study help, okay, accessibility policies. I'm sure we're supposed to make everything as accessible as possible. Now, I will say part of it is they're judging accessibility through an algorithm, and sometimes the algorithm can be very stupid. I will say that I've been having trouble with my slides coming up as not quite accessible because for some reason it thinks that blind people need to be able to read that there is an orange bullet point. Okay, so yeah, that's the overview of Ecampus, so that you have an idea of what's there and what you need to be worried about. Let's talk about writing journals. Okay? Journals are useful for collecting ideas and practicing writing. The more practice you get with writing, the better you will be. It's going to be just like sports or music. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay? It doesn't have to be 100% all the time. But I do encourage you to actually do some practice. Take some time to write for yourself. Take some time to write any idea you might think of. Okay? Journal entries have no rules. That's the big thing here. We want you free writing as much as possible, getting ideas out there. They can be anything that constitutes an idea. So, for instance, song lyrics. Okay? If you happen to hear a song that you really like and you feel like I feel inspired by this, I want to write something about it, write down those lyrics. Okay? Before you lose them, write down those lyrics. Interesting facts. Is there an interesting fact that you learned that might be the basis for a piece of writing that you might want to do? Okay. Quotes. Are there significant quotes that make you think and make you reflect? Okay. Drawings. This is one that I particularly like. Okay. I'm a very visual form of writer. My mind works in visual ways. I have to play things out like movies. Okay. So as such, when I use writing journals, my writing journals are sketch pads. Because when I'm writing stuff, I have to see how it's going to play out visually in order for me to write it clearly. Because that's the only way it's going to make sense to me. Okay? Dreams. One fun thing that I always talk about is dream journals. Okay? Dream journals are a very legit form of work of journaling. Okay, your dreams can be very surrealistic. Your dreams can make no sense, but at the same time, it can lead to better writing because dreams can solidify and congeal ideas for you. Now, I always have fun with this because I talk about the My favorite story about a dream journal involves the writer William S. Burroughs. Okay, if you're not familiar with him, he was a surrealist novelist of the 1960s. I will say that most likely his work was heavily drug influenced, but he worked from dream journals, and he used dream journals as the basis for a lot of his work. One of his best known work is a novel called Naked Lunch. You can look this up. Naked Lunch is a novel about an exterminator who starts having hallucinations because he's been ingesting too many of his poisons, and so they're messing with his brain. And this is already trippy enough as it is, and he based the writing off his dream journals. But there was one last step he took before he sent it off to his publisher. Okay, I want you to try to imagine this in your mind. He's standing in his writing study. He has a typewritten manuscript, maybe about that thick, probably about 300, 350 pages. Okay, that's typical length for a manuscript. Okay, and he stands up, and he walks to the middle of the room, and he has the manuscript in his hands like this. Okay, and keep in mind, this is the 60s. This isn't something you could just print out immediately. This is stuff that he had to typewrite. Okay, this was off a typewriter. So he had this 350 page manuscript, walks to the center of the study, and does this. Throws the manuscript up in the air, lets the pages fall where they may, collects them in random order, and that's how he sends it to his publisher. The fun part is they did not question him. They published it that way. Okay? So if you ever read Naked Lunch, you're going to probably find that the writing seems extremely disjointed. That's the reason why. Okay? And there is a precedent for his approach to this. He wanted to try to align it with the method of ancient shaman who would determine new hunting paths by disemboweling a goat and reading the entrails. So basically the manuscript was his entrails that he was reading. Okay, so after that pleasant picture, let's move on to what else you can do for writing journals. The big thing that you probably want to do for this class is going to be drafts. Okay, you're going to want to try to do practice drafts with the journal. It's really test out wordings, see if something sounds right, see if something feels right. Okay. Now, because of the online nature of the class, journals are going to be on the honor system. I can't come through the computer and check you guys and make sure that you guys are using them. Okay. However, I do highly recommend keeping one, even for your own personal use. Okay, and I've seen people who have kept those journals for themselves. In fact, last 2 semesters I had at least one student who was doing like I do, keeping a sketchbook. Okay, then at least one of them was very impressive because they wanted to be an animator and they had some really impressive work in it. Okay, but at the same time, I do want you guys to be continuing to keep a journal just for yourselves. Now, I want to do an icebreaker task. I usually do this when we have in-person classes. This is usually a group effort. Okay, so I want to get to know each other briefly. Okay, I am setting up right now a topic thread called Icebreaker. It is going to be under the questions for the professor forum. Okay. When you see that when you see that thread, I want you to reply to the thread with a short message about yourself. Okay? I want you to tell us as much as you are comfortable with talking about. So, as much as possible, let's try to avoid anything that's TMI. Okay? Anything that's too personal, anything that's possibly offensive, let's try to avoid that. I want to guide you in the right direction here. So here's some topics you can talk over when you're replying to that thread. One thing is, what is your intended college major? Why are you attending Dallas College? What is your career goal? When you get a degree, what is the ultimate goal that you want to achieve? What's the career that you want to be working in? What interests do you have outside of academics? What kind of things do you do for fun? What kind of things do you do to keep healthy? What kind of things do you do to keep mentally healthy? Okay. Where are you from, and where have you lived in the past? Talk about stuff like where you were born. Talk about how you came to Texas. Where in Texas you live. Okay. How much writing have you done in the past, either academic or recreational? Have you done anything like write your own poetry, write short stories? What kind of stuff do you do for writing for yourself? Okay. Now, this list is not intended to be comprehensive. Okay. So feel free to elaborate as much or as little as you like. But keep in mind these descriptions are going to be used for a writing exercise, so I want you to be as detailed as possible. Okay. And in a little bit here, we're going to talk over that exercise. But I'm going to pause for a minute here. I'm going to pause this lecture for about 3 minutes or so to allow you to go to Ecampus and enter in those replies. Okay? So why don't you go ahead and do that, and when we reconvene, we'll continue. All right, welcome back. All right, so since you've posted about yourself, it's only right that you learn a little bit about me now. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. Okay. First off, I've been teaching at the Brookhaven campus since 2016. When I started out as an adjunct, I adjuncted for about I guess now two and a half, 3 years. I guess this is my first semester. It's going to be teaching 100% online. Last semester, I started off in the classroom, and then when spring break was when the pandemic hit, and everybody went to online after taking a week off, an extra week off. So I had to adjust really quickly. This is the first time I've done a class 100% online. In the past, I have done hybrid classes, so I'm kind of used to it. But at the same time, I kind of like the classroom better, but I understand the necessity here. Okay. Um, One thing I want to note here is that I am a working writer. You may notice that I've got some book covers here on the slide. Those are the 5 novels that I have self-published. I'm also a 3-time winner of National Novel Writing Month. I will let you know that later in the November is when National Novel Writing Month happens, and I will be encouraging anyone who wants to do it. Any of my students, if you want to do Nano, I will encourage you with that. I will get you as much of the materials as I can to help you meeting that goal. If you're not familiar with it, National Novel Writing Month is a challenge for writers to take the entire month of November to write and just flat out write, no editing, no filter, nothing like that. The goal is to write 50,000 words toward a completed novel. I have completed this challenge 3 times. 2 of the books that you see covers for are Nano winners. Third one I'm still trying to shop around. Now, one thing I did note is I want you to tell us where you live. Okay, if you're comfortable with that, I'm comfortable with telling you. I live in Longview. I am actually filming this from my house in Longview. I live here with my wife, my daughter, and our pets. In fact, you may have noticed I'm in a room that has some really girly decor, mainly because this is my daughter's bedroom. Okay, my daughter's 8 years old. She has recently become hugely into Pokemon, so she's decorated her walls with Pokemon. She has Pokemon plushies. She's also into animals in general. So that's kind of why you're seeing what you're seeing behind me. Anyway, my daughter, again, 8 years old. She just started 3rd grade. She's doing online learning just like you guys. I'm having to negotiate her class at the same time as I'm doing this class. Okay, it's a bit of a challenge, but we're up for it. You notice my wife up there in the upper right-hand corner there. Get this figured out here at the camera. Okay, upper right-hand corner is my wife. She is an engineer. She works for a HVAC parts company here in Longview. She's actually an engineering manager there. She's also very much into pop culture. In fact, the box that you see her taking delivery of there, that box contains a full Stormtrooper costume. She's trying to get into the 501st Legion, which is a Star Wars cosplay group that cosplays as Stormtroopers. So she's about maybe close to halfway through crafting her armor so that she can do that. Now, as far as our pets, we work with a cat rescue. It says we're fostering 2 cats. Honestly, we're only fostering 1. But the other cats that we have four cats of our own and a dog. So, to try to give you an introduction here, if you can follow my cursor, the oldest of our cats is this one right here, this calico. That is Twinkle. She is 7 or 8 years old, I think. Kind of a quirky character to her. She is a foster fail. That is to say, she got adopted to another family and acted up with them, so they returned her because she wanted to come back to us. Lucky us. Okay, next one here is Boo. He's my black domestic short hair. He's a bit of a weirdo. He's had some issues in the past, stemming from trauma. So we kind of have to be gentle with him. The next oldest one here is this gray tabby here. That's grooming Twinkle. That is our foster. Her name is Vespa. She's exceedingly shy unless you catch her attention at night, and then she really wants attention. If anyone's interested in a cat, again, she is a foster, which means that she is still eligible for adoption. The next cat here is the one that my daughter's holding. This kitten, she's not a kitten anymore. Her name is Chocolate. She was a kitten that we found in a weld shop at my wife's old workplace. And when we cleaned her up, we discovered that she was extremely fluffy. So it turned out that she was a long-haired tortoiseshell. We're kind of suspecting that part of her lineage may be a Norwegian forest cat because her fur is that thick. And then the last cat over here, this is Cloudy. Okay, we got her as a kitten last year, last May. She's also one that has gone fluffy, and we may have identified the breed of her. We believe she may be a Turkish Angora, which is kind of weird because she was just a random stray kitten. All right, so we have diverse interests in our household. My wife is currently working toward membership of the 501st Legion. As I said, she's got that costume in that box. We are also big Disney fans, as you can see down here. Our picture here with Tinkerbell from a few years back. We try to go to Disney World every year. In fact, we were at Disney World when the announcement came that Disney World was going to be closing because of the pandemic, and we wound up getting like 3 more days. They got 2 days. I got an extra one because I stayed behind. But then everything closed down. So we're all big into Disney, and as you probably figured out, from behind me, my daughter again is big into Pokemon. Keeps getting plushes. She plays the games. She plays Pokemon Go. She's also gotten into Animal Crossing, and she's gotten us into it too. I gotta say, it's very addictive. My own spare time, when I get a chance, I'm a casual player of Magic the Gathering. I don't really go in for like the big money tournaments. I basically just try to play locally, which is kind of hard to do in a pandemic. Unfortunately, the last time I went to play was in July. I haven't had a chance to go since because there have been no tournaments. So, kind of hoping people will figure this out and get this pandemic stuff over with, so we can get back to what we want to do in our lives. Okay. All right, so now we know each other. Let's get into the meat of the course here. Let's talk about why we write. Why do we write? Okay, so writing is a vital form of communication. It allows for measured consideration of arguments for the revelation of previously unknown facts, or simply for the expression of grievance or celebration. Okay, there's a big reason that writing has been so important through history. It's because it's how we exchange ideas. Okay, it's how we exchange our emotions. It's how we exchange what we think, what we know, what we feel. Now, Yelsky gives a very thorough listing of instances throughout history where various forms of writing have had a major impact and significant works as the results of those works. Okay. There's 5 examples that he presents in the textbook. Let's just go over them real quick. One of them is The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. Okay, if you're not familiar with Adam Smith, he is a British economist. Okay, I think he might actually be Scottish because there's actually a statue of him in Edinburgh. Uh, so, what did the Wealth of Nations do? It introduced major economic theories which are still practiced by governments around the world today. Adam Smith is widely considered to be the father of capitalism and capitalist governments. So he's widely recognized and sometimes even reviled because he came up with the capitalist system that has been turned into what we know it as today. Okay, uh, but Adam Smith is still celebrated in some circles. As I said, he has a statue in Edinburgh, and about 11 years ago, when me and my wife went to Europe, they had his big picture on the £10 note on the back side of it. Front side's always reserved for the Queen, but on the back side was Adam Smith. Second book here, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's still the gold standard for practical military strategy and game theory. Sun Tzu is what you'd probably call a warrior philosopher. A lot of his philosophy involved how armies can gain advantage on the battlefield, how tacticians can outthink their opponent. The biggest takeaway you get from the art of war is that battle is not won on the battlefield, it's won on the intellectual plane. As long as you can outthink your opponent, you can defeat your opponent. The third one, On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. Okay, controversial. Okay, that revolutionized scientific thought in regards to paleontological ancestry. Okay, Darwin's work is the basis for his theory of evolution. And the way he reached that theory was by his observations that he presents in The Origin of Species from the Galapagos Islands studying birds. Okay, primarily he was looking at how different species had created adaptations based on their environment, based on the what best suits that particular place that they're living in. It's how he developed the idea of the survival of the fittest, because the ones that had made the best adaptations were the ones that were most likely to survive. The next category is actually two works, okay, two different media actually. One of them is Silent Spring by Rachel Carson, and the other one is An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore. Okay, of course, Silent Spring is a novel, okay, that Rachel Carson wrote. These are both explicitly tied with the environmental movement, okay? And Inconvenient Truth is specifically in regards to climate change. But Carson was more worried about pesticides, okay? Pesticides that were harming animals. So Silent Spring envisions a world where you walk through a forest and it's absolutely 100% silent. You don't even hear birds or squirrels scurrying around. And the reason why is because they've all been killed by pesticides. Okay, they've either directly ingested the pesticides or the pesticides have destroyed their food chain because they don't have a prey to hunt anymore. Inconvenient Truth is mainly dealing with how humans have created climate change through carbon emissions and the greenhouse effect. These are both definitive treatises of the environmental movement. They have become hugely influential. Okay. The last one here is kind of more modern. It's the Arab Spring of 2011. Okay. If you were following the news at that time, you might remember that there were a number of Middle Eastern governments that either fell or were highly overhauled, either through peaceful means or through peaceful protest or through violent means. Okay, the actions that led to the Arab Spring were based in written communication, specifically from social media. Facebook and Twitter were how they organized these protests and how they organized these actions. They helped to further the major political protest movement in the Middle East, which led to the ouster of numerous corrupt governments. Okay, Among the governments that fell during the Arab Spring, Algeria fell. Egypt. Egypt had the same president for I want to say 25 years, but he finally was ousted. The Arab Spring also includes the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. And a few other places, while they didn't have governments fall, they did enact government reforms because of these protests. Okay, so very influential. It's going to wind up being recorded as something that was huge in history in general. So let's talk about why you write. Okay. Some of the most commonplace ways writing is used by people in today's world include things such as social media. Okay. Text messaging, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Okay. These are the ways that you communicate with your family, with your friends, with your social contacts, with your social circle. They all involve writing because you have to write something to create a post, unless you're doing nothing but emojis and pictures. Okay. And if you're doing that, what's the point? Okay. So social media is a big way that writing is used today. Blogging is another big way. People want to express themselves. It's either by maintaining their own blog or by responding to favorite blog posts. Okay. If blogs allow you to respond to them, then you are able to express what you feel about what the blogger has to say. Okay, you can join the conversation. Journaling. Journaling is one way that people write. They keep thoughts and feelings recorded as a way of expressing them. It could be something hugely personal, like a diary. It could be just your observations on the world. Whatever you want to write in a journal, as we mentioned before. Journaling is a way that people use writing to try to help their everyday lives. Here's a big one lately: petitions. Okay, protesting for the improvement of circumstances or for a common cause. I will tell you that since 2016, I don't think I have ever signed as many petitions as I have in that time period. Okay, I would estimate that I have probably signed at least 85 petitions since the election of 2016. So some of them are serious and some of them are silly, but at the same time, it's all petitions. Okay, it's all about trying to enact change. Another way that people write for themselves: poetry. Okay, self-expression about issues that are important to the writer's life. Okay, these are things that people do write in order to try to express themselves, and they maybe want to feel a little artistic about it. Okay, and there are some people who write poetry as a living. There are some people that write poetry for themselves. And one of the most prominent versions of that last group, who write poetry just for themselves, is poet Emily Dickinson. Okay, who her work, she's considered one of the greatest poets in American history, in American literature. All of her stuff was published posthumously because she didn't want anybody else to see it. She thought it was stupid. Okay, and now she's acknowledged as being one of the greatest poets in American literature's history. Okay, so she wrote for herself. Sometimes that's all it takes. Essay writing. When you write for admission to colleges or universities, and when you're writing in undergrad or grad studies. Okay, writing essays is a way that people use writing to try to get ahead, to try to get advancement in their schooling, get advancement in their lives. Okay. Also resumes. Okay, using a resume to impress a potential future employer. Okay, this is a big reason why people write. You want to try to get across to the employer that, hey, I'm the right man for the job, and here's why, or I'm the right woman for the job, and here's why. Let me tell you all my credentials. Let me tell you what I've done. Let me tell you what my experiences are. Okay, so that's a big reason why writing is important. All right. Now, let's talk about writing with impact. Okay. We're going to talk about a student who was writing about a bad situation at their college campus. His name is Vincenzo Sinapi Riddle. Okay. Now I want you to take a look at pages 5 through 7 of the text. This talks about the situation with Vincenzo Sinapi Riddle and his free speech lawsuit against Citrus College in California. Okay. There's a couple of questions here. Okay. And if you, this is totally optional, but if you want, under the questions to the professor thread, you can post your answers to these questions if you want to try to get a conversation going that way. So, one question. The group of students who joined Sinapi Riddle in his case used various forms of writing in support of their fellow student. What types were used and to what effect? Okay. And then consider discussion question 3 regarding your own experience with writing to express a concern or share an opinion with the goal of effecting change. Discuss the effectiveness of your writing or whether the desired change came about. Now, the whole situation, just to give you an overview before you read it. Situation involves Citrus College had certain free speech zones where people were allowed to protest. Okay, they were allowed to stage loud protests only in these zones. Now, what Vincenzo Sinapi Riddle did was he was trying to get a petition going, and he asked somebody outside of the protest zone, outside of the free speech zone, to sign his petition. And the person, I believe it was a faculty member who he asked, faculty member took umbrage because he wasn't following the rules, and enacted disciplinary action against Sinapi Riddle. Sinapi Riddle, in response, sued for freedom of speech because he felt that they were being the definition of what was not acceptable outside the free speech zone was too vague. And ultimately, the judge in the court sided with Sinapi Riddle. And Citrus College had to change their policy. So I'm going to pause the lecture right here and give you a few minutes here to take a look at that article. Take a look at those materials. Consider the questions that I've posed here. Again, if you want to post responses to these questions, go ahead and do it to the questions to the professor discussion thread. Alright, and we're back. We're going to go ahead and get right back into the lecture here. Alright, so let's talk briefly about writing in college. There's 3 primary purposes for almost all collegiate writing assignments or projects. 1 is to write to demonstrate what you know, expressing to your instructor or panel of professors that you have the knowledge and wisdom to apply the information you've learned and make your own constructive thoughts on an issue. Okay? When you're writing essays in a collegiate setting, that's the main point. You want to try to express that, hey, I've absorbed this information, now I've got my own thoughts, and I want to tell you what those thoughts are. Okay? Under no circumstances should you ever think that an essay for a class is supposed to be just, I'm going to puke out what I've learned. Okay? In exactly the way I learned it, so that you are happy that I've learned. Okay? That's not the point. The point is to show that you can think for yourself based on the information that you've received. They have writing to learn. Using writing as an exploratory exercise to better focus your outlook on a subject, to present research you have done in a concise and clear manner. Okay? Exploratory essays do this. They explicitly do not have an argument, whether they're more interested in fact-finding. What information have you discovered? What have you found out about it? Where did you go to find that information? If any of you have done a project called an iSearch paper in high school, when I taught high school, I used to have people write these. If you have done an iSearch paper in high school, this is similar to what an exploratory essay is. It's not about finding an argument, it's about finding information. Okay? Then we have writing to join academic conversations. It's presenting your argument about an academic topic as a means of coming to the table with other academics who have written or discussed the topic previously. Okay? When you are joining an academic conversation, you are trying to express, hey, this is what I'm reading about, this is what these guys are saying, I have my own idea, I want to present it, I feel like I need to be here at the table with you guys. I want to present my viewpoint. Okay? Most importantly, many times, writing is practice. Your writing assignments in college are a warm-up to better prepare you for the rigors of professional writing, whether in your major or as a matter of research. Okay? That's the big thing to take away from this. You need to be ramping up every time you do a college writing assignment, because every time you advance, there's going to be higher and more requirements. Okay? I will say this is the approach that I took in my undergrad. When the first year that I was doing writing, the essays that I was writing were approximately 3 to 5 pages in length, kind of like the length of the papers that I'm going to be assigning you guys. Okay. As we went along, I found that in order to express everything I needed to get out and to show my argument, I actually had to start writing more and more and more. As I went through undergrad, my papers evolved from that 3 to 5 page work up until I was a senior. I was writing papers that were approximately 10 to 15 pages long. And then grad school made it even longer. For regular classes, I was regularly breaking 20 to 25 pages. The magnum opus, as it would have to be the master's thesis that I wrote, that wound up being just shy of 100 pages long. Okay? But everything that came before that was practice leading up to that. Okay? And that's what I want you to take away. A big thing I want you to take away from this. Every piece of writing you do in college is going to be practice for the next level. And the next level, and the next level, until you get up to that professional level and you're writing very lengthy things. Okay? Alright. So you might be asking, why do you need to write? Because regardless of the profession you enter, you'll at least be writing something. Okay? No matter what you do as in your career, there's going to be writing involved one way or another. Okay? This could include things like reports. Okay? Reports to recap what you've done on a project or any concerns there are with any particular aspect of your job. If you have to report somebody's behavior, if you have to report a problem, a safety issue, whatever, you're going to need to use writing to report that. Okay? Presentations. Things such as training materials, oral reports, or multimedia meetings. Okay? Especially in the business world, especially in retail, you have a lot of people who are basically trainers. Okay? They have to get their presentations ready. They have to get their presentations set, especially for if they're doing oral reports or if they're doing classroom settings, that sort of thing. They need to have their materials written out. Okay? And we have evaluations, possibly as a manager to evaluate your workers, or as a reflective matter for your own boss by evaluating yourself. That's a big trend in the workplace lately, is for employees to do self-evaluations in addition to their regular evaluations by supervisors. Okay? One thing to keep in mind is that some professions are writing heavy by their very nature. Okay? A few examples of this, one of them is law, especially law. If you've ever seen any scene of a lawyer, any shot of a lawyer who's talking on a news broadcast and he's from like a law library or something, you'll notice that he's always got a huge shelf of books behind him. All of those are legal documents. Many of those individual books are writings about a single case. Or each book actually sometimes contains a single case. Sometimes individual documents about those cases can get extremely long. I've heard it's not unheard of to have court decisions that wind up running 200, 300, 400, 500 pages long because every element of the case has to be discussed. Okay? So law is one that's very writing intense. Another one is politics. Okay? And not just from punditry. Okay? Politics is writing intense because you need to have some way of writing out laws. Okay? If you're going to be a legislator, you need to be able to write legislation. You have to write policy. If you're in the executive branch, that winds up coming down to speech writing. It comes down to executive orders, that sort of thing. Okay. Obviously, in the judicial, you have legal decisions that get written about. Okay. So politics is another area where there's a lot of writing. Then you have education. Okay. Educational journals all over the place are looking at people who do educational research. Okay. Sharing best practices, talking about what works in the classroom, what doesn't work in the classroom, case studies of students, that sort of thing. Okay. And on top of that, the basic writing that an educator has to do, you have to be able to make a lesson plan, and you have to be able to prepare materials to deliver to your class. Okay, so these are all workplaces, typical career paths where you're going to find writing is hugely important. As a matter of fact, one of the career paths that is recommended for English majors is law. And it's all because of this writing intensive nature of it. So let's talk about writing as a citizen now. If you can write effectively and argue clearly for a position, you can affect change in your community or even the world at large. Okay? This is mostly regarding activist type of writing. Okay? So what does that involve? This involves things like petitions. Write as a protest as a means to encourage others to join your protest movement. Okay? Make an impassioned argument that something is wrong and needs to be changed, and this is how we change it by having our entire group sign this paper that says, yes, we agree with this assessment, we need change now. Okay? You're doing it as an act of protest. You're doing it to convince others, and you're doing it to convince the people that are receiving the petition that they need to take this action now. Another one, op-eds or letters to the editor, where you're expressing your ideas about what's happening in the world or in the local community and why you feel the way you do. Okay? This is a really interesting tactic to take if you are trying to campaign for a candidate, campaign for a policy, campaign for any kind of issue. Okay? You can use an op-ed if you're a prominent member of the community. If you're not, you still have the option of sending a letter to the editor, to your local newspaper. And there's also some other ways that you can express yourself in recent years, especially with the rise of social media. A lot of people are using Twitter or blogging or Facebook or Instagram as a political platform. Another one is presentations. This would include speeches before councils, before judges, or even in front of crowds you're trying to persuade that can lead to change, especially in the hands of a strong writer or orator. Okay? If you are a really good writer, and you pair that up with someone who is an extremely good speaker, someone who can be compassionate and convincing, then your presentation could potentially change everything. Okay? Whether it's going to a school board or before Congress. Okay? The big thing is if you write well and you speak well, then there's a good chance that you're going to make things different, make things change. Another reason why we write is to understand ourselves. So this is a reflective way of writing, where we as writers attempt to find meaning in our experiences and our feelings. Okay? This could be a number of things, including journaling. Okay? When we journal, we keep these thoughts to ourselves as a private way to explore our own heads. Okay? Sometimes you don't want to express that. Sometimes you want to say, "Hey, I'm want to get this down on paper, but I'm not entirely comfortable with anybody else seeing this. I want to express myself because if I don't, I'm going to bottle it up and eventually I'm going to explode like a shaken bottle of Coke." Okay? So, journaling is one way that you can express yourself safely. Uh, Another one is blogging or social media, finding understanding by sharing our experiences in the hope that others may understand and find their own answers through your writing. Okay? This is why you have a lot of personal bloggers out there, people who post stuff about their personal lives. It's because they feel like if they share their experiences, somebody who may have a similar situation or somebody who may be under similar circumstances may find some inspiration or some ideas that you can express. As I put here, hashtag relatable content. Okay? If you're looking at people writing about their personal lives, okay, which some bloggers tend to do, okay, especially certain subgenres such as mommy bloggers, okay, they're really good, they're really experienced at this. And then you have reflective essays. There are sometimes reflections that can become quite public, especially when a well-known writer publishes them as an essay, okay. I have not supplied this to you because there's no really good copies of it that are fully accessible, but it is available out there on the web. I want you to try to look for this particular essay. It is worth your time. Okay, the essay is titled "Guys versus Men" by Dave Barry. And if you're not familiar with Dave Barry, he is a humor columnist, worked for the Miami Tropic for a long time, or Miami Herald rather. He worked for their magazine section, their Sunday magazine, which is called Tropic. That's why I kept getting mixed up. But he's very famous as a humorist. He's published numerous humor books, all of which are essays, mostly about his own observations about life and kind of from his skewed perspective. Guys versus Men was the preface to one of his books, where he talks about manliness and the difference between guys and men. And the conclusion that he's basically reached is that men are ones that are trying to do stuff that's manly, but they're being mean about it. Guys are ones who are doing stuff to be manly, but they're good-hearted, but they tend to be a little dumb. Okay? And he talks in this essay. He talks about a few things that are considered to be guy characteristics, things that all guys do. It comes down to three categories. I'm trying to remember. One of them was guys like neat stuff. Okay, one of the things in this section he talks about how the space shuttle is the ultimate guy heaven because it's got so much stuff that they can tinker with and breaks and has to fix, and then they shoot off satellites into orbit which ultimately break, and then you have to send up another space shuttle to fix those things. It's constantly tinkering, constantly stuff that's going on, constant stuff. Second one, guys like a pointless challenge, which he attributes to most sports. Okay, but he also attributes it to politics at some point. Okay, and the example he presents is a time when his office mates were trying to determine who could do the 40-yard dash fastest, because one of them had written about a star athlete who could do it in like an insanely low time. I want to say it was like 6.9 seconds or something like that. But his editor tried to beat that time. The best time that he could do was I think it was 8.6 seconds. Barry decided to try it himself. They gave him 3 runs to do it. On the first run, he did it in 8.9 seconds. So he felt he could do it on the next run. He could, if he exerted himself, he could do it fast. He tried to do it on the second run and threw out his knees. And at the end of this essay, at the end of this particular section, he talks about him being in his in bed, hopped up on painkillers, and the editor that he was trying to outdo called him to send his regards. And the one thing that he said was, "Just remember, you didn't beat my time." And then the third one, the third section that he talks about is how guys have not, guys do not understand the rules of society. It's not that they don't and his assessment is they don't. It's not that they don't understand. It's that they haven't internalized them. And as an example, he brings up his dog, who is a guy dog. Uh, his name is Zippy, and he brings up this idea that Zippy knows for sure that he's not supposed to dig through the trash or poop on the floor. But in Zippy's little mind, he thinks about how the fact that he's hungry and there's some perfectly good 7-week-old Kung Pao chicken in the garbage, and that really is kind of an extenuating circumstance to this rule that I can't go through the garbage. So when Barry and his wife come home, the entire floor is loaded with garbage because Zippy has been digging through it to get to this chicken. And then when Barry yells at him, Zippy gets so upset that he poops on the floor. Okay, so ultimately the result that Barry gets to is that guys are going to be dumb. Guys are going to do dumb things, but they're not really going to be mean about it. Okay, and the last line of this basically says the closing paragraph of the essay mentions something about how no guys might be scum, but we're good-hearted scum, and few of them, even if they're away on business trips far away from their wives and homes, will ever poop on the floor. Okay, so he's trying to understand himself as a guy in this essay, but he's also trying to understand guyhood in general. Okay, it's a very reflective form of writing. Okay, so I would recommend it's good. It's good for a laugh if you can track down Guys versus Men. Okay. All right, so that brings us to the initial assignment that I want you guys to do for the class. Okay, this is going to be a very low pressure assignment. Okay, I want you to try to have fun with it. Now, you may remember I told you that the introductions were going to be involved in your first writing assignment. That's what we're going to talk about here. Using the information that you collected from your classmates during the Getting to Know You exercise. So, under the Icebreaker topic, look at those descriptions. And then pick one of your classmates and compose a brief essay outlining something you believe your classmate would argue for. Okay? Based on what they presented in their description of themselves. What do you what is something that you think they will feel so passionately about that they will argue for it? Okay? Now, the trick to this is you cannot contact that classmate and ask for more information than what they gave. You need to speculate based on what you have available. Okay? So, in case you're wondering why we're doing this exercise, the primary purpose of it is twofold. One, so I can get a rough idea of how you write in order to know what to focus on as the semester progresses. Okay? The other is to get you guys used to turning stuff in on Ecampus. Okay? Now, Ecampus is going to have a specific turn-in procedure where you will follow a link, and it will bring up a text box and then a button that allows you to attach files. I primarily want you to attach files. Okay. I want you to take note of this. There are only certain file types that are acceptable. Okay. And that is doc, docx, PDF, and RTF. Okay. So that is Word documents of either Word 2003 or current Word. It's going to be PDF files, like Adobe Acrobat files, or RTF, which is rich text format. Okay. This is very important to remember because if you're using Google's word processor, you have to convert the files to one of those formats. Because if you just save the file, the file format it uses is .pages, which is a proprietary Google file format that nothing else can read. Okay, If I try to download it and read it, it becomes unreadable garbage. Okay, so in one of those file formats, then you can attach a file in Ecampus and submit it. Okay, so when you do this initial assignment, that's what I want you to do. Type it up in one of those file formats, submit it through Ecampus. There is no minimum length to this essay, but try as much as possible to write it in a formal style. Okay, I'm not going to be too picky, but I do want you to try to use a somewhat formal language. Try to picture it as if you are writing on their behalf to some place that you're trying to effect change with. Okay. Again, it's something you believe your classmate would argue for. Who would they be arguing it in front of? Think about that as your audience. Now, this essay should be turned in on eCampus no later than September 3rd. Actually, I'll make that September 4th, which would be not this coming Friday, but next Friday. Okay. I just want you guys to turn that in so that I can see what you guys write like. Okay. All right, and that does it for week 1. Way to go, you guys got through it. So next week we will start talking more in depth about what the textbook talks about in terms of the 10 core concepts, which are in the title. Okay, we're going to go through each of those concepts individually, how they apply to the writing process, and we'll be also looking further on down the line. We'll be looking at how those are applied in a real-world setting. Okay, so until that time, the main thing I would recommend is to get your response posted to the discussion board, start a conversation, get your replies in on the question of the professor, get your personal profiles up there, what you want to share, then pick a classmate to write about. Write about something that they want to argue for. Okay? And that being said, I will see you guys next week.